Now, how does that so for like a home brewers like Hella Coastal, like Mario and Chaz, to want to transition to actually opening a brewery, like, okay, you don't have people who look like them that's in those positions at the table, so the conversation may not be as easy, or the understanding may not be there. But what other challenges, because I know I put this on the list of things I want to talk to you about, what other challenges do you see outside of just being at the table that a brewer, two black home brewers like themselves, would have to do to get into a space, whether it's big, small, or what have you, to be considered a brewery?
That's a tough question.
Okay. Just from your perspective, because that's
my perspective, really it's about networking.
Okay.
At the end of the day, who you know is basically what's gonna get you in to a lot of doors. I'm not a brewer. I don't own a brewery, so I couldn't give you like an exact. But from the outside looking in, for me, talking to business owners in general, a lot of times it's really the networking process, the marketing, the crowdfunding is really makes the difference in a business opening up and whatnot. Especially like for people of color, like really trying to get those loans for, those small business loans for people of color, whatever you can, doing interviews, really pushing that line.
And I did mention to them, and the reason why I'm constantly talking about Hella Coastal is because this is like one of the only brewers, and at least home brewers I know, not necessarily the only black, but just the ones that are attempting to open up a black-owned brewery. I think the first one, which when we did our interview, what they told me was Brothers Brew. And Brothers Brew was attempting to be on the level of a Budweiser and things like that. And then just at that time, craft beer wasn't at that. It wasn't in the scene in the 90s, or I think it was like 2000, like even early 2000. Nobody was really going to go pay $10 for a beer when they could buy a six-pack for $8.99.
People don't want to pay $10 for a beer now.
No, that's true. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Let alone back then.
So I just think that with that aspect in the networking, the reason why I brought that up is, again, Oakland United Beer Works. Shout out to Ian, who's a head brewer there. Like when he did our IG live, IGTV live I do every Thursday. Hella Coastal got on, asked a question about the Black is Beautiful, because I brought that up as well. But they were like, yeah, man, let's come together, sit down at the table, and actually had a collab. Do you feel that a lot of black brewers or black people in general, when it comes to doing that networking, do you think they have like a preconceived notion before they actually sit at the table and have a conversation? Or is it more so they constantly got the door slammed in their face and it's like, why? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, because things like that, I don't know, because I'm not a brewer either. I'm just a podcaster, so I couldn't speak in that term.
That's a really good question. Yeah. Me personally, before I worked in the industry, that's how I felt.
Gotcha.
And to be honest with you, I don't know if the people that I'm really close with treat me differently because they know I work here. If I walked through the door and they didn't know who I was, I don't know if they would necessarily like treat me different or not know how to greet me or react.
Gotcha.
So I'm coming from a place where I know a lot of people and they know me because I work here. With that being said, there's definitely been places that I've walked through the door and people didn't know who I was and they're taken back. So if that's what they're experiencing, I wouldn't doubt it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't doubt that for 1 second because in general, the perception of people of color, not even in craft beer.
Gotcha.
When we go to the store, when we get pulled over by the police, there's a different energy usually that goes into it.
Gotcha.
And if you're used to a place where you're not used to seeing people of color, even if you're not treating someone bad, it might take a second to take it in because you're not used to seeing someone like
Gotcha.
that. So I wouldn't doubt it because the industry is very white. You know what I mean? It's very white. I just been fortunate, I've been coast to coast like butter on toast. You know what I mean? So,
E40 type of slang terminology, but I mean, and with that, do you feel? I think that with black people when it comes to beer, like I think OVO was open over here off of was that West Grand or was that 52nd or 53rd? Yeah, it's not too far from here.
Yeah,
because I know it's 55th and Shattuck is that junction, but I know OVO was there, and I slid by a couple of times, but I'll never really went in because most of the time I either they're closed when I went there, or they had an event going and it was packed. But do you think Black people are actually being exposed to craft beer on a level that is not just seeing beer as, like my uncle said? My uncle just calls beer piss water, and he's like, you don't mess with that. He's like, if you want to drink, he gonna hit the Henny, he gonna get the vodka, whatever the case may be.
Too,
exactly. But I'm just saying, like, do you see us as being exposed to it, or venturing out, or anything in that nature?
No, more so now, because craft beer as a whole is blown up. Like, you look at the number of breweries that are popping up everywhere. So in general, there's more exposure to the mass. But as far as like the target audience, nah. And I don't. It doesn't shock me because, again, the people in the industry are not people of color. So therefore, they may not go into the mindset or where they're targeting. They're going out of the way to target a certain audience, or not even. I wouldn't say target, but to be as welcoming. I
say target because that's what I mean. That's what marketing is.
Yeah, but more than anything, because like that term target could be
I got you
taken out of context. Welcoming, right?
Got it.
What we're seeing is like breweries popping up in cities that have high populations of people of color.
Right.
Even in Highland Park, a Hispanic neighborhood. My mom's from Highland Park.
Okay.
And they're not the demographic still isn't really catering to the people that were there. It's catering to people who they think drink craft beer, which statistically is mostly
white.